After a long, hard-fought season, the bracket has been set. Our final 12 teams have been selected, and it's time to see if all the drama of making a 12-team playoff is actually worth it. Here now I present to you all our contestants. I don't think that anyone is surprised that Oregon is here at this point. Going into the season, we all had the highest expectations for the Ducks. The incredibly talented weapons for Dillon Gabriel to use have laid waste to all that have stood before them. Jordan James, Tez Johnson, and Evan Stewart have been absolute studs on the offensive attack. Usually, when I look at Oregon, though, offense isn't the fucking concern. It's the defense. The reason the Ducks usually have to score so much in years past is that the defense was incredibly weak. This season, however, the narrative has finally changed, as studs like Bryce Boetcher, Tatum Tuioti, Mateo Uigalele, and Jordan Birch have feasted on any offense in their way. Only 3 teams have scored 30 or more points this season on the Ducks: Ohio State, Penn State, and, Boise State about knocked you off too. Anyways, you have defeated all that have come before you, and you are the only undefeated team left in all of FBS. With all that said, this means there are no excuses left for the Ducks. You now have the biggest target on your back in the long and storied history of your program. I swear to Christ if you blow this. I legit thought we were finally rid of you assholes. I saw the games against Alabama and Ole Miss and said there was no damn way Georgia was making it to Atlanta and winning the SEC championship. But then, the SEC imploded harder than the old Georgia Dome. Out of the rubble, you somehow emerged and locked up a first-round bye. I would say you are unscathed, but your starting quarterback got hurt by a pissed-off Longhorn and will miss the Sugar Bowl. Normally, I'd say this is the moment your season ends as well, but you apparently have some depth at quarterback. Gunnar Stockton came in off the bench, and while he's still green as a fish, he's more than capable of leading the Dogs into the Superdome. Frankly, this is probably a good thing for Georgia, as Beck has regressed hard this season and looked incredibly rough at times, throwing 12 interceptions this year. Oscar Delph and Arian Smith can only do so much when the quarterback accuracy goes to shit. That said, the defense has been alright for the most part. Jalen Walker and Chaz Chambliss have given quarterbacks nightmares, but when you are giving up 40 points to Alabama, 42 points to Georgia Tech, and 31 points to Mississippi State, that should make any fan nervous when you have to face either Notre Dame or Indiana, who both have a very good offense. Of all 4 of the teams with a first-round bye, I honestly think Georgia has the most holes, yet they also have the most potential to win it all. As usual. Cinderella, welcome to the ball. Sure, it took a decade and a half to find your way here, but who gives a shit at this point? Any college football fan going back to 2007 has waited for the day that Boise State Broncos got their shot. And not only are they getting it, they got a first-round bye. The Mountain West champions are not here by accident. As they showed a lot of people this season, they have what it takes to compete with the traditional powers. I will point back to the game they played against Oregon, where they were within 3 points of beating the Ducks, as prime example that they can do it. The only other team that did better than them was Ohio State. It was their only loss of the season. They are legit. And if you want to find out why, you got to look squarely at Ashton Genty. Frankly, he should have won the goddamn Heisman, bar none. Almost 2,500 rushing yards in a season is something you cannot fluke, no matter what conference you're in. This dude is a freak of fucking nature, and by far is the best running back coming out of college since His Highness King Henry left Alabama. That said, this offense is no one-trick pony. Maddox Madsen, see I can say the name right, is a machine of his own. 22 touchdowns, 2,714 yards, 3 interceptions. If you intercept Maddox, keep the ball, because it doesn't happen often. Ty Benefield and Seye Oladipo have led the way on a defense that at times has either been the best thing in college football or giving up 45 points to Georgia Southern or 30 points to Utah State. We'll see what kind of defense shows up in Glendale on New Year's Eve. If the last team was Cinderella, this fucker is Pinocchio, because no one, not a fucking soul, could have thought the Sun Devils would have gotten a first-round bye. Good lord, did these bastards wish upon a cactus to become a real team finally? Because holy shit, they are now. Out of the chaotic hell that was the final weeks of the Pac-12 season, we have a team that 2 years ago lost to Eastern Michigan and immediately fired head coach Herm Edwards in the fucking end zone. And now they are the only representative of the Big 12 in this playoff. Kenny Dillingham has taken this program to heights it's not seen since the late 90s. And it may be the start of a great run for the Devils. Cam Scatabo has been a dominant force in his senior year, but quarterback Sam Levitt is only a freshman. He's got a minimum 2 more years to run havoc over the conference with sophomore wide receiver Jordan Tyson, if he can stay healthy. After a knee injury last season, he missed the Big 12 title game with an arm injury and is out for the playoffs. The other wide receivers were able to step up and fill in for him against Iowa State to clinch the championship in the playoffs, but they're, let's just say, not too promising overall. Adding to the fact that Arizona State's wins are usually by around a touchdown. Unless you're Oklahoma State or Arizona, you could probably chuck up the Devils in the I'm just happy to be here camp. I know I said it may be the start of a great run, but I'm mainly talking about next year. Those were your top 4 seeds in the playoffs. Remember, they did it all by conference champions and whoever was the strongest. And now we move on to the rest, who have to play on-campus playoff games in the first round. What has 4 legs, is under 2 foot tall, and apparently scares the shit out of a Longhorn, a Bulldog. Georgia is quickly becoming a team that is the kryptonite to Texas, as they are the only team to beat them this year. Anyone else up against is pretty much fucked unless Coach Sark can't decide who to use at quarterback. This team has an embarrassment of riches at skill positions. You got wide receivers like Isaiah Bond, DeAndre Moore Jr., and Matthew Golden. Tight end-wise, you got Gunnar Helm, and running backs Quintrevion Wisner and Jaden Blue. Quinn Ewers, their star quarterback, has been hurt down the stretch, which allowed the country to get a sneak peek at next season with Arch Manning playing under center. But with it being playoff time now, all bets are off. Quinn needs to have full control of the offense going forward, and reverting to cheeky packages for Arch Manning will only get you so far. The defense has proven itself to be great. Leading the way is Colin Simmons with 8 sacks, Anthony Hill Jr. with 7.5 sacks, both players combining for 7 forced fumbles. Oh, by the way, that's a freshman and a sophomore working there. Be very afraid of these Longhorn linebackers. Despite losing the SEC title in a first-round bye at Georgia, I could easily see Texas going all the way. Just don't play Georgia again and you should be fine, right? I have 0 fucking hope for you. Zip, nada, 0, nilch, none. You guys are the epitome of good but not good enough. All I gotta do is look at your record against Michigan and Ohio State. And I am very aware that this has been burned into the eardrums and eyeballs of every Nittany Lion fan at this point, but it's worth repeating. Outside of those 2 teams, you have little to no success against top 10 ranked teams. And again, SMU is ranked 11th in the bracket, so I guess you can have a little bit of hope. Penn State is a favorite in their game against SMU, mainly due to it being in Happy Valley and a lot of people undercutting SMU. Yeah, Happy Valley is already a tough environment as it is during the regular season. Now you have to put it in December, cold as balls, Pennsylvania. That makes the shit twice as hard. Drew Allar is nothing to write home about it for a quarterback. He's fine for the most part, just didn't make any leap in improvement this season. When Bo Prabula is exciting the fans more than Drew Allar, you know damn well things are not all right in Happy Valley.
Hold it!
Quite literally, as I was editing this portion of the video, breaking news occurred, and Bo Prabula is hitting the transfer portal. He will not be available for Penn State in the college football playoffs, so I hope Drew Allar is 100% healthy and good to go, because you have no choice but to fucking trust him now. What has saved the offense is the running back duo of Nicholas Singleton and Katron Allen, combining for over 1,600 rushing yards, as well as tight end Tyler Warren. It is a very old school Big Ten style offense where it relies on 5 yards and a cloud of dust to win games. The defense looks solid as long as you don't pay attention to the Bowling Green game in September, or USC in October, or Minnesota in November, or Oregon in the Big Ten championship game in December. Okay, yeah, maybe the defense will have a hard time against SMU. Jesus Christ. To my great disdain, God's golden exceptions to the rule are in. Won't rehash why I'm not a Notre Dame fan, but the Irish are really damn lucky they played Northern Illinois in September. Ever since that loss, the echoes have seemingly awoken. They're fucking pissed. Other than a close call against Louisville, the Irish have curb-stomped every team in their way by 2 scores or more since that loss. Riley Leonard had a slow start but is finishing hot, throwing 13 touchdowns in his last 5 games, rushing for 721 yards and 14 touchdowns, as well as throwing for 2,000 passing yards. Jeremiah Love has nearly 1,000 yards on 15 touchdowns as well. The ground game has been king for the Irish this season. The defense has been yet another reason for the Irish making this nearly desperate sprint to the finish. Riley Mills, Howard Cross III, and Donovan Hinnish are about the closest thing you can get to a living brick wall on the defensive line, combining for 14 sacks and 88 total tackles. You can throw the ball if you want, but the secondary has been declared a no-fly zone, with Christian Gray, Leonard Moore, Adon Schuler, and Xavier Watts combining for 12 picks between them. Watts has 5 picks on his own. As much as I hate to admit it, the Irish have a really good team this year, maybe one of the best ever defensively. But will that be enough to get their first title since 1989? I am still not fully over that loss to Michigan, and I'm pretty sure the players on Ohio State aren't either. But the fact of the matter is this is the first time in the history of Ohio Stadium we get to play a home game in December. For all the money Ohio State threw around in NIL, it sure did produce a talented roster. Will Howard solved the problem at quarterback for the Buckeyes this season, and they continue to lead play by Ibuka and Travion Henderson, pairing with newcomers Quinshon Judkins and true freshman Jeremiah Smith, gave opposing defensive coordinators nightmares. The defense led by Caleb Downs, Coney Simon, Deion Burke, and Sonny Styles was also really fucking good as expected. But I'm going to level with you all right now. If Ohio State loses this game, it's not going to be because of the players. It's going to be the coaching decisions that continue to piss me off to no end. Ohio State has a bad habit of starting slow and needing a quarter and a half to get going on offense. And I put the blame squarely on the shoulders of offensive coordinator Chip Kelly. We started slow against Michigan, and they took advantage and knocked us on our ass. We started slow in the weeks leading up to that game against Indiana, Northwestern, Purdue, Nebraska, even fucking Marshall. If we start slow against Tennessee, it's going to be a long night on stream. But I do have hope that by the end of that night, my team will be the one smoking a fat stogie and waving around the roses as we head off to Pasadena to have a rematch against the Ducks. Speaking of good old Smoky and Rocky Top, it's time to go over the Volunteers. Now, while I am not afraid to dig into an opposing team, I frankly haven't been able to follow these guys very much since the game against Alabama. So, I enlisted the help of someone who, for better or worse, knows this team way too fucking well. Hang on, let me just summon him real quick. Wish I was on good old Rocky Top down in the Tennessee Hill.
I have been summoned from the depths of Tardaria, and it's time for more pain! And as I'm sure you're well aware, Tennessee is the ultimate fist of pain. For 22 long years, I've had to bear witness to the peak of tomfoolery that this program has brought upon me. To the escapades of Kiffin, Dooley, and brick-by-brick Butch, I've had to deal with a fair share of being the butt of every sports joke in America. Thankfully, while we're nowhere near the best, Josh Heupel has worked for 4 long years to make this program at least respectable. And while we're getting through year 4, somehow he has brought my Tennessee Volunteers to the college football playoffs. So am I scared of what's to come? You bet, I'm shitting bricks at least 3 times a day. While freshman quarterback Nico Mbatalovia has been exponentially improving as the season has progressed, he has hit nowhere near his ceiling of consistency. One beautiful pass is followed by one that's so bad it belongs on a Florida State roster. And with an offensive line that is just as consistent, you really never know what you're going to get with this offense. Thankfully, the incompetence of the passing game has been overlooked because of the fact Tennessee has the SEC's top rusher in Dylan Sampson, along with one of the best defensive fronts in college football. You know 2024 is a chaotic year when a Josh Heupel team is being led by the defense. Against what is going to be even competition though, we will be able to see for ourselves whether or not the moment is too big for him. There's always been a few lingering issues with this team. One significant factor to take into account is that Tennessee more often than not struggles on the road against teams of the pulse. There's plenty of examples of this under Heupel, but the most recent is that of the escapades on the road versus Arkansas. The quarterbacks get too rattled and the defense crumbles on random drives. And the play calling. God, the play calling! against the likes of any defense capable of shutting down the run game, the offense goes more flaccid than Brian Kelly's defense against rushing quarterbacks. Coach, we've run up the middle 19 times in a row already. What should we do now? Oh, I got a great idea. Let's hit him with the inside run. They'll never see that one coming. Though this episode has gotten better since the end of the year, we'll get to see for ourselves just how much that is the case. Tennessee, along with the infestation known as the Tennessee fan base, are heading up to the north to take on the Buckeyes. Tennessee has the talent to keep up with the Nuts, and if you look past the offense stalling for entire halves, the run up the middle or die trying play calling, or the football diarrhea we laid against the Piggies in October, I think we've got a good shot. Either way, go Vols, screw y'alls, and best of luck to all. This team's gonna give me a massive hemorrhoid on Saturday.
God save the Queen!
Okay, which one of you fuckers left the door open and allowed Quasimodo in here? March is 4 months away. You fuckers are a little early to be looking at a national championship. Wait a minute, you won 11 games? Alright, fine. You can stick around and play, but I got my eyes on you. Okay, Curt Cignetti, unlike his father, who I rolled through shit in my West Virginia video, has done something truly special here. Actually, special might not be the proper word to describe this season for Indiana. Let's see here. Miraculous, improbable, and downright ungodly would be better terms. Cignetti has pretty much took most of what made James Madison good last year and pushed it all the way to Bloomington, Indiana. Not just the coaches, but the players as well. Hell, players like running back Tyson Lawton, wide receiver Elijah Surratt, linebackers Aiden Fisher and Jalen Walker, as well as defensive lineman Mikhail Kamara, among others, who came with Cignetti from James Madison to share in the success, makes me think about renaming the team from the Hoosiers to the Dukes. Not only that, he worked that portal for all it's worth, landing quarterback Curtis O'Rourke from Ohio in his breakout season, as well as getting running back Justice Ellison from Wake Forest, who's having a career year himself. If this is how good the Hoosiers are now, imagine how good they're possibly going to be in a couple recruiting cycles. The university just signed Sig 10 to a massive extension, and rightly so. But if Cignetti is able to capitalize on this opportunity before him, the dynamic of the tortured history of Hoosier football may change in a few short weeks. Realistically, though, this might be the Hoosiers' only chance to win the title for a couple years, as the core of this team is either graduates, seniors, or going off to the draft. No shame if you lose to Notre Dame in the first round, but you better try to make the most of this opportunity. I want to see touchdown Jesus weep. They say the dead don't rise. They say that zombies don't exist. That's all in our imagination and TV shows. But my friends, I'm here to tell you that the dead do indeed rise and are amongst us. SMU's football program was executed via the NCAA death penalty in 1987, and since then has not been relevant other than a random Hawaii Bowl game in 2010. They have been cast off to the toilet bowl of college football, along with your Kent States, Akrons, FIUs, and UTEPs for as long as most of us have been alive. Irrelevant, unwanted, and unloved. However, the very thing that killed the program was apparently the only way to bring the Pony Express back from the dead. It's called NIL, and the home of SMU is Dallas, Texas. Say the line with me, boys. Money talks, bullshit walks. And SMU's football team embraced NIL immediately. Get the rich-ass Dallas alums to throw in millions of dollars to renovate the stadium, as well as the players on the field on this roster. While some teams sued the ACC for bringing in the Mustangs and diluting the value of the conference, whatever the fuck that means. The Ponies rode hard and fast with 2 middle fingers in the air and laid waste to every ACC team in their way. Except for Clemson, but we'll get to that in a second. Kevin Jennings threw the rock for over 3,000 yards and 22 touchdowns. Rashard Smith has over 1,200 rushing yards and 14 touchdowns. While the Pony Express is alive and well on offense, let's not forget about that great wall of Dallas. Jafari Harvey, Isaiah Smith, Jared Harrison Hunte, and Kobe Wilson make up some of the foundation of this wall. This group of players have shocked offenses with their physicality, and frankly, the more physical teams win these kind of games. They may be the underdog going into Penn State, and most people may just be happy to see them and not Alabama. But I frankly think they are the most likely team to win in an upset on the road and invest in the next round. Either way, who needs conference TV money? SMU is here to stay long term. How in the fuck did you get here? Seriously, who in the fuck put a hex on Miami in order to get here at this point? The same day you lost the Palmetto Bowl to South Carolina, Syracuse decided to be some chill guys and knock Miami out for you. You then go up early on SMU in the ACC title game, make everyone think they're frauds, only to show us that, in fact, you are the fraudulent ones, and let them back in the game as your defense collapsed in the second half. Yet you bullshit your way to a victory. It's infuriating watching this fucking team sometimes. I'm not even a fan of them. I'll admit, Cade Klubnik has had a great season with 33 touchdowns and 3,300 passing yards. I acknowledge that Phil Maffa has done well rushing for 1,100 yards. Obviously, you guys won the ACC, so you're good, yeah. I can't help but keep looking at that game against Georgia and the game against South Carolina. You got blown out against SEC champions and lost to a Gamecocks team that frankly should have been in here over you. Not to mention that game against Louisville you had was pretty goddamn ugly as well. In what world do you really think you have a chance against SEC runner-up Texas in DRK Stadium? I'll tell you your chances. Fucking zero. Enjoy being here, Tigers. Maybe utilize that portal while Dabo Swinney's name still has some meaning to it, huh? I won't go game by game because I've kept you all here long enough, so let's just skip to the end. Oregon defeats Georgia because I made that fucking video about the Ducks. And now I am a jinxing machine like Urinane Tree himself. Special thanks to Squid Tart for joining me on this video. He also makes college football content like me, and his shit is pretty damn good, so please go follow him, subscribe to his channel, and tell him that Red sent you in the comments. Enjoy bowl season and the college football playoff, guys.